view of how Charlotteville looked when you used to go there so often as a child. And we went back there year before and see a business place running all the water from the restaurant.
Oh, well, Charlotteville, I have a number of concerns about Charlotteville, and my concerns are valid. They're not concerns of judgment. They're concerns about serious environmental impact, concerns about the actual health of the people, or the health of your visitors, right? And how do you not see this? I keep asking, how come so many people seem tunnel vision? How do you not get to Charlotteville, to that beautiful beach by the facilities, your actual beach facilities, and you actually have people watching the drain pipes from your toilets, your bathrooms running directly into the ocean that they're right there swimming in? How can you not see that? How do you not see that when you go up there to visit, to take a photo op as a government official? How do you not see that as your environmental management agency, right? Yes. We were there for that town hall with the EMA when they came to Argyle. And one, it wasn't so well publicized, yeah, right? But the other thing was, how come it wasn't well publicized, right? You guys came to, you said you were there to seek public discourse about environmental issues in Tobago, yet the majority of Tobagonians did not know this was happening, right? It took us going to Avanell and saying, hey, Olivia, coming to this thing this evening. And the young people came in and, you know, in their defense, they didn't understand what it meant, so it upset them, right? The fact that there was a young man, actually it's Jillian's son, I'm going to say, Jillian, your son, he was very poorly behaved in that particular setting, and he kept stripsing when people asked a question, because he was like, well, you're asking questions for, but I understood why he did that, because he believes government doesn't make a difference, so why engage with them? Wow, you're wasting time. Let me just get this over with.
I think that's young people. Keep them down a little bit.
And so that's the sort of stuff we see around the island. And instead it becomes politicized, as opposed to simply saying, okay, what are we doing about our waterways? What are we doing about our animals, our fisheries? What are we doing? It's always politicized, right? And, you know, like I keep seeing newspaper clippings, and they'll highlight one person because that person upholds this party. And so this party's in power, this person's work is being done. I've been recently brought a social welfare, social impact project that supposedly is happening across Tobago. It's brought to me by an American who said, someone from your island reached out to me. They said they're doing this amazing thing for women and domestic violence. I know you care a lot about this stuff and your family cares about it. I think you should tell your brother about it. This would be a cool thing to highlight. It's on your island. And I said, describe it to me. And I heard, and I was like, I never heard of this. This is amazing. This should be publicized. So I started reaching out. So far, I haven't found anyone else who can say, yes, they've seen this thing that is supposedly happening across the island. This amazing thing.
Break it down.
Well, I'm still investigating, so I'm not going to say it yet because I want to verify. But I would tell you guys this. If you're at home doing great work in the not-for-profit space, then it should be publicized. But also, I'm starting to think this is one that's got a political leaning to it, which is there's a certain aspect of the political elite that are pushing this story, even though it's not actually happening on the ground. And that concerns me. That concerns me. And you guys at home, be careful, because people are reaching out when they hear good things and they want to highlight it. If you're doing good work, make sure you're really doing good work and you're not just receiving money and applying for funds from international agencies for work that cannot be verified.
Yes. Ah, yes, sir.
Wendy, this is your corner here right now again.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had a really important question, like a comment and a question. When God told Moses to go down to Egypt and tell Pharaoh, let my people go, anybody wondered why Moses went? He went because he cared about his people and what they were subjected to.
His mother was there and he knew.
Yes, his family was there. They were his blood relatives. He went because he genuinely cared. How would it be if when we get involved in politics, what if our main reason was for love of country, love of humanity, and love of each other, instead of how much money I can make and how much trips I can take and what I can get? What if we just were genuinely concerned about the love of people, our communities, our island, you know, the people that are dying, the people that are suffering, and we go in there and because of love, we do what the hell we said we were going to do.
Yes.
What a
Yes.
beautiful thing that. What a beautiful thing that will be.
What a beautiful thing that would be.
There you sir.
It would mean that we would get in there and everything that we promised when we were on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
That would be the first things that we try to do.
Hey.
Because too many women are being killed. Too many children are homeless and hungry. Too many people are overworked and underpaid. What if we really, it would take love. I'm coming back to love again.
Can I
Mama
make a
Coco.
point?
Yes.
Can I make a point?
Yeah.
Keino, any point that you're going to make right now?
Yeah.
It's concerning Charlotteville. I'm here with you. I bring you here for this. And what I'm saying here now, how many more people have to die in Charlotteville coming down that twisted winding where the bus up, twist, boom. Keino, I want your view.
I'm not sure how many more people are going to die unless an intervention is made to fix that corner. I don't know how many people are going to die. But in regards to love, as the only man on the panel.
Keino, I'm going to put you back again.
Yes.
We are discussing Charlotteville.
Well, I'm discussing and I'm giving you my answer. I don't know what.
Well, elaborate.
I am elaborating.
Okay.
So I don't know.
We want you to elaborate and to speak of the dangers of that corner and why it is so hard to see so many government changing. Let us talk about that road.
Well, we know the danger of the road. What I am going to say, in order for me to effectively contribute to the discussion, and in regards to what Pastor Mitchell was recently saying there, I think that women, when we look at power, men is not going to come into a kumbaya conversation and hear love, 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 love. That's not men. Men want power. Men want authority. And what we have to understand that we've been viewing everything through the lens of male and the patriarchal society. What women should be doing, women needs to come together first as women. Okay? And when women come together first as women, because if I'm in a church and the majority of my congregants in church are women, it is obviously and I'm a pastor and I'm the male, it is obviously that I'm depending on those women for my support. If you look at voters, the majority of voters, people who are actively involved, are women. So women have to be able to look and be able to leverage their power collectively. I won't have a problem if all 12 representatives in the THA are women. Because if all 12 representatives in the THA are women, we won't have that problem with Turpin Corner going on there, because we would know that it is a danger to life.
But don't you think your answer though effectively absolves men of responsibility?
Exactly.
I don't think it absolves men.
Keino, watch the camera so you can see when my finger is up.
Sure.
Yeah, I think, I like what you said, Keino. I think the problem here for me when I hear that is I hear it a lot. It's actually reminiscent of what Mr. Rowley said, which was know who's coming in your bed.
Dr. Duke?
Yes.
I am the moderator of this show.
Yes.
And that we have already passed that question. We are in environment because the show is about to finish. And the environment, I lead you into Charlotteville.
Well, Keino, let's speak of the women in Charlotteville. From what you know of Charlotteville and women in Charlotteville, how can we empower them to do the things you're saying? Do you feel like they're doing it already? If not, what's keeping them from getting their community control that they need? Like, well, let me ask you this. Does Charlotteville have a seat of government or seat of like a community council? Is there
there's a village council. I know that there's a village council.
And who's in charge of that?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but from my experiences over the last 8 years being there on 2 separate stints, the village council tended to be a politicized
and when you were there,
group.
Who were the politicized leaders of those times when you were there?
It was on both. It was on both sides. It was on both sides.
So it was just family helping out family. Joanne Cummings have a question here or a statement.
Yes, Joanne says, I'm concerned about the lights going into Charlotteville. It's scary at nights, right? Here's another person. Val is saying, I'm a single mom of 3 in need of help with food and water. Okay, so Val, I think, is kind of spamming us. But Val, we're so sorry for what's happening to you in Texas. And if you're not spamming us, then actually put some more real information instead of just the Cash App, because we need some more real contact information for you, Val. But if you're spamming us, I will be deleting you in a little bit, because I don't appreciate people taking advantage of real crises, which is what's happening in Texas with real people. So Val, if you're real, show us proof of life as opposed to this being spammy, okay? Earl Henry says, men need love too, more than anything else, but the greatest of these is love. I think, though, I guess my question here, Coco, please pardon my indulgence, but my question for Pastor Wendy is, what is love, right? Because we use it a lot. We say love and love and love, and the church loves to say love. But I would say, growing up in Tobago, what is love? Love actually wasn't taught. And what I've seen in Tobago is people can go from saying, I love you this morning, and threaten to kill you with bodily harm 2 hours later. I call it the 0 to murder, right? They literally go real quick from telling you I love you to planning to murder you. We've also watched it happen on this show with people who would send Coco messages of love, but if she were to only call out one thing that was happening as part of a systemic problem, they come on the show with threats. Threats, full-on threats. And so I guess my question for you as a pastor and as a Tobagonian and somebody who grew up in the beautiful village of Glamorgan, in which I spent a lot of my own childhood, is what are you seeing in Tobago as expressions of that love that you speak of?
Love is very simple. I know people like to say love is of God and God is love. Yes, God is love. That's his very essence. But what did God do? Love is a demonstrative word. It means that you put...
Suppose I love to hate you. That's love too, you know.
Well, that's not hate. That's not love. That's hate. Hate is hate.
I love to,
there is no part.
That's what I'm saying. The word love could be very contradictory, because I could love to hate you. I love to commit crime. I love to rape. I love to beat a woman. So what is love in Tobago?
Yeah, well, let's be very straightforward about what love really is. Love is putting the concern, the care, somebody else in front of you. Love is sacrificial. That's why John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever should believe on him would not perish and have everlasting life. God saw our need, and it so affected him in such a way that he gave the most precious thing to make sure that we had something that was precious. You see, and this is what love comes down to. So you can't love to hate somebody or love to beat somebody.
I want to bring in a little comic in this, a little bit. It may not be
Mama Coco, why are you doing it?
You know, that is the same God that let go Lucifer on earth. He know he couldn't handle him there.
He know what?
Love, listen to me. The God of love couldn't stand Satan love and Satan behavior. And you know what he did with him? He threw him down amongst us. That is why people can move from 0 to 60. Because many of us don't have agape love. We don't have the love of God in us, but we have love.
Well, then if it ain't the love of God, then it's not love.
Who says so?
I say so. The Bible says so. Because God is the very definition of what love is, his attributes.
Yes.
That's what love is. And if your love does not match up to that.
Sister, he is. But the love that we see on earth,
that's a tainted love. That's a perverted love. And so this is the reason why we need to get back to...
Also,
yeah,
the God of love.
Huh?
The God of love destroys cities, you know. The God of love.
Yes.
So we have to be careful. This love word, it is powerful to use because it can bring calm to those who believe in the love that you're talking about. But I could love to destroy. Yeah. I could love to make scandal. I could love to be in parliament. but I can't show love to the people. All of that is love. I love to be elected.
That's a tainted love. That's a tainted love, Mama Coco. If you can love to be in parliament and don't want to help your people, then you ain't love nothing.
Define that. I could love to help myself. I could love to give my nephew the job because that's my nephew. But can my nephew do the job?
Yeah, but that's not the full definition of love. You're giving a partial love, a tainted love. You're giving your version of love. If you know that your nephew is not qualified to be in that office that he's in,
but I love my nephew.
Familiar love.
My nephew want money.
No, but then that's not love, because you have got to be able to see the needs of your people above you giving your nephew a job that he's not qualified for.
No. I want you to take your time now and you define love that you are talking about. Okay.
I'm talking about the love of God. The love of God is compassionate. Look, when Jesus walked the earth, he had a bunch of people following him. He was teaching them. He was grooming them, doing everything, dropping wisdom nuggets left, right, and center. But at some point in time, the Bible says he looked upon them and he was moved with compassion. Why was he moved with compassion? They were following him all this time. They didn't have anything to eat. They didn't have anything to drink. So when you look at the people and you look at their condition, something inside of you, and that's why a lot of Christian people call themselves Christians, but they don't have bowels of compassion. Bowels of compassion, which is an excerpt of God's love, would cause you to be moved when you see your people struggling on your island, when you see that they can't get running water, when you see that they can't get jobs or education, the love of God would prompt you to move, to do something to fix the situation.
They have to define what love is.
You to do the right thing.
Computers, school, the truth. God.
Exactly. Everything that they need. That's why Moses went down into Egypt. The people were being whipped. They were enslaved. And God tell him, go there and do this. And if it took how many plagues that had to make sure that Pharaoh get to the place where God's people would be delivered. Moses stayed the course. And at the end of the day, what did he do? He led them out of Egypt. No matter what it takes, you have to stand up and fight for your people. If you say you're running for office, don't run for office. If you don't love the people, if you only love money, stay out of politics.
Preach.
Because if you're going to lead the people, you are a type of Moses that is fighting for the good of the people, that is fighting for the well-being of everyone, Indian, Negro, Chinese, whatever, rich, poor, middle class, don't even have a class. You are the Moses that is fighting for them.
Pastor Wendy, I want to applaud you.
Because you want money, then you are in the wrong profession. Come on.
Pastor Wendy, I want to applaud that. And I also want you to take it to the end of Moses too, because this is the part where people home don't remember, right?
Yeah.
Which is we give credit particularly to leaders for having helped us at one point, but not realizing that even those leaders can then fail later. So Moses emancipated. He brought people out.
That's right.
All that.
He took credit for what he shouldn't have taken credit for, and he was what? He was prevented.
That was, he didn't make it into the promised land. Why? Because God removed him.
So there are times when even the people you believed in, who did well in a certain era, have to then be told it's time for you to pack it up and sit down because you're no longer serving the people.
But Dr. Duke, we have to always also remember that God is always going to raise up a second man. He is never going to leave his people defenseless. He is never going to leave his people in separation, if I can put it that way. He is always going to raise up somebody new, somebody who has the love for people in their hearts. We can't miss what God is doing, because if you've been sitting in that office and you haven't been meeting the needs of the people, God's going to remove you.
So when I am saying that all these politicians should be
that are saying that they love to
get ready to go in jail, Moses was punished at the end of his sentence.
That's right.
Yes.
So now we have Avanell. Then we have Joanne, and back to Keino, and then Mary. Avanell, what's your take, and what's the substance that you want to share now concerning love concerning village, you have 3 minutes, Avanell.
Sure. So for me, I think love is community. We have to get back to that level of community. That was a huge thing in Delaford. Growing up as a child, you saw that people were willing to work together. And if we don't find that sense of community within ourselves and even advocate for each other, we're going to be lost. I mean, we need to get to a sense of understanding each other.
Are we going to be lost or forgotten? Because we lost already.
Well, we try not to be forgotten, but Delaford is forgotten. Delaford has already been forgotten. It's been years that our community center, the place that we should be able to come together and be that community, has been in the state that it's been. There's no reason that in 2021, there's no air conditioning in that building, that building is constantly flooding out. There's no place for our young children to come together and find that community within each other. There's no soccer fields. There's no cricket fields. We have to leave all the way Delaford to go down to Louis d'Or for anything. And have you seen Louis d'Or lately?
You're right. You're right.
And maintain the way it's been. That pavilion that's been there for years since I was a schoolgirl going down there for netball and going sport. A girl, myself participating in sports, nothing has changed. It's the same old. And we have to shift away from that same old. We need change. We need to develop strategies within our community to get away and resolve our issues. We need women group where women can turn to each other. We need men's group where men can turn to each other. We need to form communication, and we have to learn to listen to our children. Not just mothers, but both parents. Sometimes our children come to us and we turn them away. We don't want to listen. And we could have saved them. We have to learn to listen.
We have to learn to give the people what the people need.
Yes.
The Bible said, oh God, Jehovah, he looks beyond our faults and he looks for our needs. The people of Delaford, politicians, not fresh ones, old ones, you need to visit the people of Delaford and give the people of Delaford what they need. We're now going to go to Joanne.
What's that, Joe?
You know, love, I'm never sure. Love it's a good thing if we can just get back to what we used to know. Respect and love, they come hand in hand. But the demise of Delaford and many, many villages like it is rooted in I have to say that, the leadership, not just in the House of Assembly, but the leadership in Trinidad. You understand, when you have a child and you do not give that child autonomy when the time is right to give that child autonomy, the child will never grow. The child will always be dependent on you. So as a result of us having this wardship, we are now seeing the demise of everywhere throughout Tobago. Now, I was looking on, I was reading something. There's an Italian man who, he came from, he traveled around the world over many years. I can't remember his name, but he has a restaurant in Bacalet. But they are doing some work with Tobago, with our heritage. And they are the people, okay, they love Tobago. And many, many of our local people are obviously giving them that information. But you're seeing people of different ethnicities who are controlling our narrative. It's a good thing that they're doing, but we need to be involved. We need to come together. There's too many things that are being lost. And I saw on Facebook a few days ago, somebody from within the Melville family posted up something about, it showed Murchison Estate, and it showed Adam Edwards, who used to be a teacher at Pembroke EC School. It showed a history, the people, they were peasant proprietors, and then somebody then wrote below that if you want to get that information, Dominic Kalipasad has that information. These are things that are somehow stuck somewhere in the Red House in Trinidad, and anybody seems to be able to get it. We need to have these things on Tobago properly recorded and put together so we don't lose ourselves. We're losing everything.
We need to have that story in Tobago. We need a museum. We need a museum.
It's not just museum. It's now, and now it has to happen. We're losing. Everybody have their fingers on our history. And this is because of our autonomy not being granted to us so we can lead and do what we have to do. And I just want to say this again. For people who worry about autonomy for Tobago, one thing must be understood is that if autonomy is given to Tobago, Trinidad have to agree that if it's a period of 4 to 5 years, we transition, because we can't just be given it and left to run. It has to be done properly and smoothly. You understand? Everything is being lost, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry from everywhere else is doing what they like. So we are being destroyed. I don't want to go on about this because this thing, it hurts so much.
Have any one of you visit Italy? For an Italian to have interest in Tobago, it had to be something else. Italy?
Because Tobago had...
Go and look for it. I don't know. I found it on the news. I was reading something.
It's an article in Newsday. It was published in Newsday.
There is value in Tobago. There's potential in Tobago. There's money in Tobago. There's wealth in Tobago. Right?
Yes. I actually have no problem with foreigners. I'll be honest. I actually don't have problems with foreigners, Mommy, Coco. I don't have problems with foreigners coming and showing Tobago's beauty. Yeah, but here's the thing, Coco. Unfortunately, because of the way things have been structured in Tobago for so long, it only takes a foreigner to finally show the beauty of Tobago to those in leadership. And again, it's performative, right? There's something called performative activism, and I want to just define it real quick because it's actually not a good thing. So performative activism...
30 minutes, Dr. Duke.
Yes. Is referring to activism done to increase one's social capital rather than because of one's devotion to a cause.
Yes.
Not associated with surface level activism. And a lot of what I see in the newspapers is just that, surface level activism. So they show the story of one Italian man who's been in Trinidad and Tobago for decades.
Well, 30 years.
Decades, right? Doing amazing things with his black Trinbagonian wife. He's dedicated himself to be there, but they spend so much time emphasizing he's Italian. 30 years living in Tobago, the man's a Tobagonian. Okay, let's draw that in. But
no problem with him doing that as well, but
that leads to xenophobic responses because they do that intentionally, because it's also intended to insult the Tobagonian. Look what they wait for Italian to come to fall here. But the truth is, many of us are home, and because we haven't been taught our history, we don't know the meaning of a cuppa, right? The fact that I'm hearing so many people saying that they never heard the story of Sandy when Farley spoke about it on the campaign trail, and that shocked me. One, because we brought up Sandy on this show when Farley was here, so I'm glad he's taken from this show and gone on to do those things.
A lot of things he's doing, even that
even
that live he just get there
about the dialect. Yeah, so I'm glad your show made that impact to really let them know you got to teach the people about who they are. Yeah. But that's what the Italian man wanted, I think, when he did that story with Newsday. Now, the fact that the person in the Newsday wanted to focus on him being Italian in Tobago is part of our problem. Because if he's been there for 3 decades, I've been in America for 25 years, and I call myself an American. I'm an American citizen who carries an American passport in addition to a Trinidad and Tobago passport. I would be offended if a Trinbagonian tells me I'm not a Trinbagonian, and some have tried, but that's their problem, not mine. Just like I'd be offended if an American tells me I'm not an American, because again, that's their problem, not mine. I'm an American and I'm a stakeholder. I'm a stakeholder in Trinidad. I'm definitely a stakeholder in Tobago. And so I think that's the first thing we got to do with our conversations. But let's not let everybody get focused on the Italian here. Joanne's point is more Tobagonians need to be responsible for Tobago's history. We need to be responsible for the legacy that is Tobago. We need to see the beauty of our island. You know, Antigua literally markets itself as the land of 365 beaches, one for every day of the year. They literally tell you that. You hear that and immediately you start thinking, I need to be on this island more often because I need to visit all 365 beaches. Right? Tobago probably has that many beaches, but we haven't.
We're bigger than Antigua and Barbuda.
We haven't talked about it in that way, right? It's about the messaging.
Glamorgan have one of the best beaches right now, and people don't know Glamorgan.
Yeah, and so it's things like that, right? How do you help the people who are there appreciate their heritage and their legacy? How do they take control of their legacy? How do they go to a fort and see the beauty of the fort? I'll be honest, I was very disappointed when I saw how the fort in Plymouth looked compared to the fort that my memory might be lying to me, but the fort I remember seeing in Plymouth is very different. And Keino is saying it's called agency. Yes, it's called agency, Keino. I agree with you. And so the problem right now is I think it's intentional though, because if the people don't value it, you get to tell them the little thing I gave you, the piece of glass I gave you is gold, right? Because that is exactly what happened when people literally exchange gold for pieces of glass. When people exchange diamond for pieces of glass, it's the same thing happening right now, is we're being exchanged and offered trinkets in exchange for actual value. And so I think that's what this conversation is about, right? And that's what I hope today would spark and will continue. It's not about arguing personal preferences. It's not about actually arguing about the church. And when I positioned that we asked Pastor Dr. Wendy what is love, is not because I don't believe she knows love. I wanted the people to hear what she, a woman of God, views as love. Because right now I see a lot of pastors going on political stages and speaking of politicians in loving ways when the politicians haven't actually demonstrated love to that very pastor's congregation. And I think that's a failure. Right? Love isn't simply that I brought you on my stage to pray.
Right. Paying attention to my show. Turn around, face the camera, son.
I think Keino is actually watching the phone and the comments coming from people as opposed to this screen that has the show. So, yeah, so we got to talk about it, right? I remember seeing that. Jason,
yeah, I'm watching my phone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I could tell, Keino, because I see you commenting. And I could see from, when Frederica said we're not just sun, sand, and sea, and people took that as, yeah, what do we have? But it's actually a defeatist statement, right? Because although it's not sun, sand, and sea, everywhere that is tropical has sun, sand, and sea, from Thailand right back.
And you have to speak about it.
You have to speak about it. And different people have different types of sun, sand, and sea that they seek, but they also seek people. They seek heritage. I think every village in Tobago should have its own museum.
Yes. And website.
Yes. Yes.
And all the things we use, because that's disappearing too.
But wait a minute.
Okay.
Mama Coco saying something. And
right.
So she will answer this one. Vegas doesn't have an ocean, yeah?
We don't have an ocean, but we do have beaches.
Come on.
Absolutely, right?
Tell them about it.
And you can have a beach day. You can go sailing. You can do a lot of things. We have man-made lakes here. Lake Mead that everybody talks about. Lake Mead was actually created as part of the Hoover Dam setup and the Hoover Dam system. That was the amazing vision of people who built it back in the 1930s, right? And so, but it's called vision, and unfortunately you don't know what you don't know. So many people who, when they hear about progressive ideas, they laugh, right? And even for us, right, many times we laugh, not because we don't think it's possible, because we know that the wheels turn so slowly that it's not going to happen. I think for me, what's been disappointing, and Mommy's heard me say this over and over, people who've been in my close circles heard me say it over and over. I think for me, what's most disappointing is how buildings are treated from government to government, which is buildings were built by taxpayer dollars. It doesn't matter whether one party started a building or not. It is the taxpayer's dollar that started it. The taxpayer dollar should finish it. What upsets me is that one regime starts a building, next one comes in and says no, and then they start building a whole new building like that from scratch, which doesn't make sense to me, right? Like,
money.
Imagine Democrats or Republicans keep vacating the Capitol because one of them in charge versus the other, or one of them builds a new White House versus the other. That doesn't happen, yet somehow it happens on our level. I don't get that. I don't get why people seem to think that a building that's built was built by X party or Y party.
The PNM is, the hospital in Roxborough is PNM hospital. That should never be.
Should never be.
No.
Hospital can't belong to a party.
No. Right? The fact that people now are also thinking that you can't ask what's the next step for the hospital. I think it's tremendous that it was built. I would have designed it differently, but you know, that's a taste issue. People have seen things I've built for myself here in Vegas. I wouldn't have built that, but it's there. Now, how are you going to make it work for the people? Right? And what I don't see or hear yet, and maybe it's happening behind closed doors, but I think that's the problem.
Don't give them your ideas.
No, I'm not giving any ideas. What I'm about to say is I think that's your problem, though. You guys keep talking about things behind closed doors and saying it's coming, but when you want to get the buy-in of your population, you're supposed to speak to them like the stakeholders they are. In my view, it's a company, right? The government is a company. The voters are the shareholders. You're supposed to come out and let your shareholders know what you're doing. You know, we see the Apple guy coming out and giving a speech.
You want to bring sandals. You can't bring sandals. You see, people have to want sandals.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, you work for us.
Right? So here's the other thing that troubles me. Like, you know, Avanell was saying that Delaford is missing a field and a cricket this and that. And I'm trying to think of where in Delaford that would go. And I guess it could go on the Kings Bay side and so forth. But the thing that also troubles me is not so much that they have to put it in Delaford. What, like you said, have they done about Louis D'Or, right? And, you know, with travel and distance comes variety of view. And one of the things that blew my mind was traveling abroad and seeing what a real basketball court looks like, what a real netball court looks like.
It's too close.
Yeah.
And bat a ball and you bat it for 6, it's landing on somebody.
Okay, so the question is, where have they taken the next step, right? So, for example, you know, the field in Goodwood, which is probably...
Dr. Where is the heliport that we know?
Well, you know, I have a lot of ideas about that and a lot of disappointment about that. I have a lot of disappointment even about what's being happening in a certain part of Tobago where certain things can be repurposed for doing good. Instead of leaving them to just go forward, you can actually use them to do good. And it doesn't matter which party is involved, just use it to do good. Not Cindy Duke's good, but the good for the people. Like, ask your people, what do you need? And how can we do good by you?
Like Kendall Farm School.
Yes.
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 My God.
For the Tobagonian is
listed buildings. Listed buildings.
Yeah. Is
get rid of them.
Love? Is that what we mean by when we say love? Is it back pay? What's love? Right? Is love being able to go on stage and go into parliament and be a minstrel, a jester in parliament on behalf of your party? Is that love? Is that the only time you're able to talk and speak with some agency, as Keino used? When do we show love in reality? And that's where I hope this went today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's next?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, we have Mary now coming in to say she peace. Yes, Mary. If Mary can't start, we will start with Keino.
I think Mary has muted herself. So Mary, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry.
Mary, stop muting yourself.
Why is it?
Talk now, Mary.
We're hearing you.
I've done. Okay. Right. Love for Tobagonians. What does Tobagonians love? Love means freedom. Freedom to make choices about what happened in your country. Freedom for you to be able to make what laws that govern your country, okay? Freedom for you to enjoy your island, financial freedom, where you are be able to do things to bring finances into your country. For example, we don't have to always depend on Trinidad for everything. We can do a lot of industries in Tobago that can enable us to make money. And one of the things that I've noticed on the campaign trail that they were talking about is all our beautiful heritage sites that tourists come and go to for free. We can make money from that to help deploy it back into Tobago for the continued development of Tobago. Okay? The freedom of the people to this enslaved mentality they have and the dependency syndrome, Tobago want to be free from that so that their development can continue and they can see where their monies are being spent. Because at the minute, they're not seeing that. They don't have that freedom. And when you talk again about love, a lot of the people on the political platform are talking about they love Tobago. But love for them is only a word so that they can brainwash Tobago people into believing that they care about the development of Tobago. So they use the word love. So, oh, yes, they love Tobago. They love it. Don't just say, prove it to me that you love my country.
What?
Let when I come, I see development. Let me see changes. Let healthcare be one that I would love if I stay in Tobago for 6 weeks and I feel unwell, I can go to the hospital and get treated. Show me that kind of love for the country. Don't just say, don't just go, I love Tobago and we're all doing this because we love Tobago. Yet you all cannot even come together and sit. Even the Prime Minister cannot bring himself, he so loves Tobago, but he cannot bring himself to speak to the opposition. And he so loves Tobago, want what's best for Tobago. You would not even, okay, you went back to Parliament. This autonomy bill has been there for how many years? Waiting. And you went back to Parliament to amend the THA. You did not go back to Parliament and said, let us get this autonomy bill so my Tobago will be free. Free to take care of itself, free to develop its own everything about Tobago. I'm so overwhelmed about it. You know, it is just that freedom. Love for Tobago means free in Tobago with our autonomy bill.
Mary, keep watching.
Right.
That was telling everybody. Keep so, give us your view now concerning love of Delaford. What do you think that should transitionally be done to bring changes to the people of your Delaford or your Lambo? You have 3 minutes.
Okay. What I think needs, let me go for Delaford. Because I'm not only speaking about Delaford, I'm talking about the Windward region. When you think from Charlotteville coming all the way down, there isn't...
You're going to talk about Delaford. Keino is about to talk in concerning Charlotteville.
Okay. So when you think about Delaford in itself, there is not a health center. There's nothing there that if somebody gets ill, there used to be that health center, well, the health office, they used to call it, where Dr. Melville, parents own, that people used to go there to see the doctor. They don't have that anymore. So if you want a doctor, you have to go down to Roxville.
No, do they have one?
No, they have one.
The Louis-D'Or.
No, you have to go to Roxville, where I think they're just starting to develop a walk-in facility where you can walk in and get seen in Roxborough. But that health center there could be a good stopping point, developing it into an out-of-hours or emergency service stop point where people coming from further up can come, get treated there, seen, treated, stabilized, and then move on. Okay? I remember Rosenwall had a helipad. I think it's in Betsy Hope that he used to come with his helicopter. Why couldn't that helicopter pad or helipad be developed so that people can be flown from that point to Scarborough, because Roxborough Hospital is not functional at the minute, to Scarborough, or even direct to Trinidad, where they need to go to get that further service and treatment. So it's seeing that sort of development in Delaford. When I go there, it's heartbreaking. The infrastructure that's all gone. So those are the things that I think that is needed to help in that area, because it would not service Delaford alone.